Whew, that was sad. What a dooski, guys, it's Phil34, and today I'm here with my very first movie review of the year, and that's for A Monster Call. So I actually heard about this property a little while ago, and it was from a good friend of mine who told me that this book, it's so great, it's really fantastical, but sad, it's fantastic, and they're making it into a movie, and you should check it out. Alright, you know what, fine, I'll give it a shot, and my thoughts, it was fantastic. A Monster's Call is directed by J.A. Bayona, and follows a 12-year-old Connor dealing with his mother's illness, difficult grandmother, and bullying classmates, and finds an unlikely monster that helps him to find his truth. At first, I really didn't know what to make of this film. It was fantasy, and then I'm thinking, wait, is this for kids? Because it really isn't. It was super grim, but it was great. Diving into this one, I love the story. Granted, it is fairly simple, but what made it stellar to me was how well it was executed. Like I said, it's a pretty sad film, but I did find myself thoroughly engaged throughout the whole entire 148-minute runtime. Essentially, this boy is going through a difficult patch in his life and has to come to terms and accept the situation, or as the movie likes to put it, the truth. As a result, you get a film unlike many other types that are meant for children, and in turn, it is very relatable. The same goes with the characters. Whether it was the boy or the grandma or their father, as well, there was enough gaps left for the audience to think about the story. It was very much open to interpretation in many scenarios by the end, which I enjoyed. What really intrigued me about A Monster's Call was exploring the complexities of life through this child and through this also like fantastical lens that we see throughout the entire movie, and you feel very immersed with the visuals and the hierarchy of inner narrative structure. Also, there's quite a bit of repetition in the story. However, I didn't find it to be overboard. I actually didn't find it a nuisance all too much. I thought it was actually effective the way they used it. With regards to acting, the cast did a solid job on all fronts. Lewis McDougall, I don't know where they found this kid, but he was amazing in this. He really made this role work because, of course, the story has a lot of other elements, but it's focused solely on this little boy. It's pretty much from his perspective, and that's where the whole focal point is. Because of his performance, you really bought into his life and his struggles as the narrative progressed. A lot of times in this one, it relies on facial expressions and eyes coupled with silence, and Lewis conveys intense emotions well throughout the movie, whether he's getting bullied or getting in a heated conversation with his family. Felicity Jones, I really enjoyed her in A Monster's Call. Compared to her recent role in Rogue One, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, I thought she had a really well done performance in this, and she really won me over with A Monster's Call. Art and creativity are really prevalent in this, with Felicity Jones' character being the one who really pushes that forward, as you get the idea that she's this sort of flower child who is slowly dwindling away, and her son and her are very similar in terms of their creativity with drawing. Sigourney Weaver and Toby Kebbell are both terrific side characters. More specifically, it's great to see Toby get a role that feels like it was made for his strength. Something interesting too was the contrast that I like. His character is very much the realist in this fantasy story. Another character, probably the most important, was the actual monster. The big tree up the street was voiced by none other than Liam Neeson. He did an awesome job. While at first I was kind of questionable about their relationship, it quickly develops as he becomes dependent and helps Connor cope. While the story is rather dark, there is an ever so slight humor that works to the character. Also, shout out to the few Liam Neeson cameos. If you guys saw them in the movie, I don't want to spoil it, just look around, you can find them. With regards to all the heavy subject matter like death, faith, etc., the film really plays it all well. At many points, characters could have easily went overboard with their emotions or their inflections, but they were very subtle about it and took time with their storytelling, so when it came to these bigger scene moments, there was a much more deeper emotional impact to them. The last thing I have to say about this was I found the pacing to be near perfect in this movie. It had a fantastic balance of excitement and heartbreaking moments for me, and in turn made it an overall immersive movie as I was engaged throughout this entire process. When characters are just staring each other down, or it's just silent as this boy is dreaming or whatever it may be. As well, I found the incorporation of fairy tales and stories into the narrative. It brought a welcome change of pace and tone to the story that kept me thoroughly engaged. The animation, specifically with these sequences, were actually really well done. As well, the morals being proposed about there being no bad people, just people in between, was great, and the binaries of how kids see things as just black and white, and how the world really isn't like that, and there's a lot of gray area. I love how that was explored so in depth. It's rather grim, but what makes this really beautiful to me was it's like those old stories that have valuable lessons towards the end, even though the actual story ends off fairly tragic. I found the tone and the moral of the story being told was very raw in A Monster's Call that made it seem almost like a parable or allegory of the coming of age of a young boy having to grow up and deal with these tragic circumstances that he's facing. The CG, for the most part, in a movie where there's a giant wooden monster, was excellent. However, there was a few instances where I did find it to be a little spotty. Another thing that I did have an issue with though was the ending. I really didn't find it all too necessary. I think I would have preferred it without it and just left it to interpretation. Without giving the sort of end credits, I kind of wish they just ended it there with how the story ended off. And the last thing that I gotta say is, who is this for? The target audience isn't really all there for me. Is this for children because it's fairly dark and depressing at times. Adults can really appreciate it, but I don't think it's enough for them to go out and watch it because they might be confused by the marketing. But that is all just super minor things that I'm calling out. Overall, I thought A Monster's Call was fantastic. It's an unconventional child story that deals with grim realities of life that is executed rather beautifully. I'm gonna give A Monster's Call a 9 out of 10. And that's my review for A Monster's Call, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, as always, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. Also, guys, if you got social media, check me out in the description down below, guys, to check that out for my Twitter and Instagram. As well, guys, I'll be doing my best to do weekly movie reviews, so if there's something coming out in a week or two or in a month or something that you want me to review, let me know in the comment section down below and I'll try my best to do it. Seriously, guys, I would recommend checking A Monster's Call. I know January is filled with stinkers usually, but this was a fantastic movie and I would highly recommend checking it out. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Peace.